So I'm going to entitle this God Grows Out Legs, because God can do anything. And as a doctor, I believe in science, I believe in doctors, but there's so much that as doctors we can't cure. And that's what I love about being a Christian and having God in my life. And so when I first became a Christian, the church that we grew up in, our pastor would pray for legs to grow out. I remember one of the first miracles we saw firsthand was a leg growing out, and it was about a month after we started going to church, and our pastor, somebody came up to the pastor at the end of the church and said, my back hurts. And so he said, well, sometimes when your back hurts, that means one leg is shorter than the other. And so he sat the person down and held out their legs, and one of the legs was shorter than the other. And so he just held both legs and he prayed. And we were, well, he prayed and the leg grew out, and we were just shocked that we got to have front row seats for that. It seemed like most of the church wasn't even paying attention, and later on we found out, of course, it's because they've seen that so much. It was a very common occurrence at our church. And another thing that our pastor used to pray for was teeth. And he would just have these teeth-filling nights where at the end of the sermon, he would just call people up if they wanted to have prayer for their teeth, and people would just stand, and then he would just go by and pray for people, and then he would go by with a flashlight and he'd look in their mouths, and people would get fillings, silver, gold, some people got enamel. Apparently at some point there was some sort of a stone that would appear that the pastor said had been tested, and it was like some meteorite dust or something like that. But anyways, I grew up seeing a lot of things, and I remember when I was actually I'd graduated from med school and residency, and I was working, and one day I was just like, God, I've seen a lot of people's legs grow out. I've been there when prayer has happened, but I haven't personally prayed for a leg to grow out, so I'd love to do that. And that same week, I'm working, and this lady comes, and she's not my patient, but she was seeing me, and she comes in with a limp, and she's just saying, oh, my knee hurts, and I was going to be in this national tennis tournament, and we were going to win, but I've hurt my knee, and so can you help me? And so she just also happens to mention, oh, and one of my legs is shorter than the other. It's not even related to why she's there, and she's not expecting me to do anything about it. But as soon as she says that, God is like, pray for her leg to grow out. And I'm like, no. I was like, God, one, she's not my patient. It'll be so weird. Two, shouldn't my first one be in church, not at work? And then, you know, all these thoughts about what if it doesn't happen, and she might just think I'm a weirdo, and I don't know, all these thoughts going through my head. Anyways, I was taking care of her as a patient, as a doctor, and so I sent her off to get an x-ray, and I'm stalling, honestly, and she comes back, and there's nothing wrong with her x-ray, and so then I'm writing a sports medicine referral. I got that done, and the whole time God is like, just pray for her, and I'm like, God, no. And finally, I'm just like, I know this is going to sound really strange, but can I pray for your leg to grow out? And I expected her to start laughing and going, no way. But instead she was like, yeah. And I was so nervous and surprised that I didn't do it like I'd seen in church. So she and I were sitting kind of diagonal to each other. So I just took her legs as they were diagonally, and I just prayed. And then, to my horror, actually, I saw the longer leg grow out longer. And I didn't know what to do, so I just gave her back her legs, and I was like, oh, test it. And I had no idea what she was going to say. I was just hoping she hadn't realized that the wrong leg grew out longer. And so anyway, she got up and she walks, and she's like, oh, they're the same size, and my knee doesn't hurt anymore. And she was just totally healed. And then in hindsight, I realized that because I was holding her legs diagonally, the shorter leg was looking longer, and God knew what he was doing, which of course he did. But anyways, so her leg grew out, and so that was my first leg that week. And then my second leg was a couple of days later. I was doing homeless ministry, and as soon as I entered into this homeless shelter, we were going to do a service. We got there a little early. There was this man in the back, and I just, as soon as I saw him, I felt like, oh, you need to go talk to him. So I started talking to him, and as I was talking to him, he mentioned, oh, my back hurts. And I was like, oh, well, sometimes that means that one of your legs is shorter than the other. Can I just check and see if that's the case with you? And so I did, and one of his legs was like 3/4 of an inch shorter than the other. And so I said, oh, can we pray for your leg to grow out? And this was about 5 minutes before the service was gonna start. And so I held his legs and I'm praying, and nothing's happening, and nothing's happening, and nothing's happening. And at the end of 5 minutes, boom, it just suddenly grew out. And then we started the service, and at the end he gave his life to God, because God had shown him that he is real. And then that same week, I think there's one more leg that grew out, but I can't remember that anymore. And so anyways, God is a good God.